Here's what we're talking about today in our lineup. Here on the Now, some states have protections against loans with high interest rates, but lenders are still getting around them. The new effort to make sure that we're all protected. And we're taking you to a different kind of reenactment today, bringing attention to a little known part of history. And companies that let you try something before you buy it, they're popular these days, but the cost can really add up. So we're going to have what you need to be watching for so you don't end up paying extra.
Thank you, Chris, and welcome into the Now Indy, where we continue to track this first measurable snow across central Indiana that's accumulating. You can see Bloomington and some reduced visibility out there. The roads on Live Drive there around the Castleton area. Interstate's still in decent shape here, but I think now that the sun is setting, we're going to start to see those impacts a little bit more showing up there from the snow that continues to fall. And here's Storm Team 6 radar. You can see it continues to stream in. The exception around the Fowler area starting to taper off for you, but the rest of us in this shield of some light to even moderate snow you can see falling along and south of Interstate 70 through Indianapolis, Lebanon, into Kokomo, Marion, and even around Peru. Expect this to continue here for the next 4 hours or so across much of central Indiana. But there's the reduced visibility we're dealing with. Lafayette, a quarter-mile visibility, half-mile visibility in Indianapolis. And with this first decent snow, we kind of got to remember exactly how to drive in it. Temperatures now down below the freezing mark, where we look in Indianapolis at 30 degrees, 28 in Kokomo, and 31 in Bloomington with that north breeze driving in even colder air. And I think we'll see about another inch to 2 inches of snow here across central Indiana this evening. And those snow showers starting to taper off as we get a little closer to 9 o'clock. But look at those temperatures. They're into the middle 20s with that north breeze continuing. Amanda?
Thanks, Kyle. Today, the nation pauses to mark Veterans Day. It's a time for local veterans to help those in crisis who served our country. Our Rafael Sanchez reports on Hoosiers helping veterans and their families.
The chili was the draw. But the drive to support local veterans came in the form of canned food, clothing, and cash, all brought to American Legion Post 3 in Broad Ripple.
The winters are hard. Indiana's weather is terrible. So I think, our responsibility is not to just drive by. Our responsibility is to dig in, see what the problem is, and partner up with organizations that are walking hand in hand with those people and serve them better.
Mike Melton has been in the National Guard for a decade. Nina Powell has served in the Guard for 6 years. And Veterans Day, she says, is a day to share with family.
This is part of our family tradition, too, just reaching back and showing my children all the people that came before them so that we can have a safe place to live.
On this Veterans Day 2019, here's the current situation right here in this city. The group HVAF, which helps many veterans, says that every Tuesday and Thursday, they're helping at least 200 veterans with assistance. Robert White is an Air Force veteran. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's with the group HVAF, which stands for Helping Veterans and Families. He says the critical need for hundreds of veterans, housing, and jobs.
They need an opportunity to thrive, to excel. So giving an opportunity where you may have an organization that you represent that could utilize veteran talent in regards to employment opportunities.
Recognition of that and other needs is as key as the reverence and the remembrance of all those who've served in every branch under the stars and stripes. Working for you in Indianapolis, Rafael Sanchez, RTV6.
And the group HVAF is based out of Indianapolis. They can be reached at 317-951-0688.
President Trump plans to address concerns surrounding vaping. He's saying today that he'll meet with members of the vaping industry. His administration is looking at a potential ban on fruity e-cig flavors. Now, advocates say those flavors tend to attract teens. It's unclear when that meeting could happen. There's new research saying that e-cigs may hurt your health more than regular cigarettes. This story started in the Now newsfeed. Studies show that e-cigs impact cholesterol and decrease blood flow. Researchers say it's too soon to know the impact of e-cigs on the entire body. Now, we might be closer to the Boeing 737 MAX flying again. Company's expecting to resume delivering the plane to airlines in December, and it's also expecting the FAA to give the plane the okay in January. Well, the National Weather Service is predicting more than 300 record cold temps to be tied or set this week across the country. It's supposed to be the coldest day. Coldest day is expected to be certainly today, but that'll be carrying on through Wednesday. Italy taking a bold move recently. It passed a new law that puts the responsibility on families to prevent children from dying in hot cars. The new law requires families to buy special car seats or motion detection alarm attachments that will alert them if a child is left in the car. Now, if a driver is pulled over and doesn't have one, they could face fines, points on their license, even license suspension. The government is also reimbursing a portion of the alarm costs.
Here in the United States, we're working towards technology in the vehicle itself. And the reason for that is because nearly 1/3 of children who die in hot cars in the United States get into vehicles on their own.
Meanwhile, kids in cars, as well as other safety groups, are still working to get the Hot Cars Act passed. It would require automakers to put a child alert detection system in new vehicles. Some car companies have promised to install the technology on their own. Kids in Cars is skeptical of voluntary agreements.
And a perfect example of that is in 2001, GM issued a press release stating that they had motion sensing technology that could prevent children from dying in hot cars, and that this was a big problem and they were going to do something about it by putting that technology in vehicles by 2004. It's 2019 and they still haven't followed through with that voluntary promise.
54 children died in hot cars last year. So far this year, there have been 52 deaths. Okay, let's get back to our lineup. Active duty military families are protected against loans with high interest rates. Now, all of us could get that same protection nationwide. We're going to explain how that would work.
For less at Ross. Yes, for less.
Welcome back to the Now Indy on RTV6, the wake-up call for the beginning of your week. Lots of snow to be seen outside in this mid-November time. We have our live drive going on the 465 in the Keystone area. You can see roads are pretty wet out there. We're going to have Kevin and Kyle back to give us a look at the forecast coming up. Well, tens of thousands of Hoosier school children will not be in class this week from tomorrow as the list of school districts taking part in Go Red for Ed continues to grow. You can add Pike, Franklin, Washington, and Warren Township schools and Greenfield and Mount Vernon schools to the growing list of districts that will be closed or offer e-learning on Tuesday, November 19th. IPS and Wayne Township schools were already on the list. This is to allow teachers to attend the Go Red for Ed rally at the State House on the 19th to lobby lawmakers to put public education at the top of their priority list during the upcoming session.
There's a new move coming to give veterans and everyone else the same protections active duty military families get when it comes to lending. Loans for service members are capped at an interest rate of 36%. The Military Lending Act also caps finance charges, credit insurance premiums, and other fees. A bill will be introduced this week that will expand those protections to everyone else. The proposal is expected to get pushback from groups like the American Bankers Association. Some states have their own interest rate cap laws. The Center for Responsible Lending says lenders are finding a way around them.
We're calling it rent-a-bank. And so this is where lenders are partnering with state-chartered banks from other states that don't have an interest rate cap.
Now, there are two types of loans to watch for: payday loans and high-cost installment loans. A high-cost installment loan is a larger amount that takes longer to pay back. For example, a $2,500 loan for 4 or 5 years that the borrower ends up paying back as much as $14,000 to $18,000. As many as 40% of people wind up not being able to pay them back.
It's a win-win for the lender, and as a borrower, you end up with bad credit, collections, debt collection calls, and even bankruptcy.
The Center for Responsible Lending also found high-interest loan lenders target veterans, African-American, and Latino families. Now, if you're enrolled in Medicare Part B, get ready for your cost to go up next year. Premiums are set to go up nearly 7%. That's after prices already went up slightly earlier this year. Now, also going up, the annual deductible, that will also jump 7%. Ahead in our lineup, there's a little-known part of history getting a second look.
But for me to defend their actions today would be to recommit the sin for which they are guilty.
Well, we're going to take you inside this different kind of reenactment and the conversations that it's bringing up.
for only $89. For on time.
Let's start the Now newsfeed. New research is saying mind-body therapy can help with opioid addiction. The study was published in JAMA Internal Medicine. Researchers looking at people who use therapy like hypnosis and meditation. More college students are smoking pot, but a study found less are using cigarettes. Now, it's unclear why there's been this change. The research found that they were more likely to exclusively smoke marijuana instead of tobacco at all. A new study says climate change could pose a danger for U.S. troops. A nonprofit put out a study that says by mid-century, service members on U.S. bases could see an extra month on average of life-threatening heat every year. The military has been working to develop new training methods for dealing with the temperatures. Well, when you think about a historical reenactment, you might think of people dressing up in period costumes to recreate a famous battle. But a different kind of reenactment is shedding light on a part of history not known to most people. And as Maya Rodriguez tells us, it's part of a complex history from the role of slavery in the U.S. economy to the removal of Confederate monuments that the U.S. is still grappling with.
The sounds of an unfolding uprising pierce the quiet of a winding country road in rural Louisiana. This is a reenactment of the largest slave rebellion ever seen in the U.S. In 1811, along the Mississippi River in Louisiana, hundreds of slaves gathered in the German Coast Uprising. They headed to New Orleans, marching 26 miles to the city with huge goals.
They wanted to seize all of Orleans territory and set up an African republic in the New World.
New York City artist Dred Scott organized the reenactment. Part community performance, part documented art project, the reenactors marched 26 miles on Friday and Saturday, trying to bring attention to a part of history virtually unheard of, both back in 1811 and now.
Reenacting this slave rebellion has everything to do with excavating this history, so people know the history, but also people thinking about how we get free today.
Jordan Rome came down from Chicago to participate in it.
I think people are really thirsty for that knowledge, for history to present itself in a more nuanced way, not so black and white.
Well, the German Coast Uprising has a better claim to the most fully realized slave rebellion in American history, as in the one that came closest to succeeding.
Blake Gilpin is an associate professor of history at Tulane University. Despite the uprising's eventual suppression, he says it's a part of history getting a second look, along with the fight over whether to remove Confederate monuments across the South. New Orleans removed several in 2017.
I think that's the whole thing about these histories being kept very separate. That, you know, the Confederacy has been sort of washed clean of the thing that it was actually fighting for, which was to keep enslaving human beings. That trying to connect those things actually makes us understand everybody involved so much better.
People are re-examining history, and it's actually, you know, sort of a movement from below, and that's a really good thing.
A renewed look at the past in the present as history marches on. In La Place, Louisiana, I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
There is nothing like a happy ending to a story that brought heartbreak for a Johnson County family. Hadley, the missing bulldog, is back home. The family shared video of the happy reunion with us after we reported on the missing dog last week. The family says a couple from Avon contacted them yesterday after finding Hadley on the west side near Washington Street and Raceway Road. She had been missing for over a week after getting loose from the family's home in Whiteland. Someone found Hadley on November 2nd and took her to the Johnson County Animal Shelter, where she was found to be microchipped. However, Hadley's owner missed the phone call. When she called back minutes later, she tells us Hadley had already left the shelter with the people who found her. Since the shelter did not require them to leave her there, and the finders took her, saying they would contact the family but never did. They say they do not believe the couple who found her was the original person who took her to the shelter, but they are so thankful she is back home and safe. Probably not going on a big long walk today though, Kyle.
No, indoors, nice and warm, and you know, it's starting to feel like Christmas, and it's starting to look like Christmas out there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in all of that snow. Lights at the Brickyard, they're getting set up for that, and you'll be able to check it out starting November 27th. Yeah, we've got some snow out there to kind of set the mood right now. Storm Team 6 radar shows this big expansive storm system that is bringing the snow, and still pretty much everyone in the RTV IPv6 area dealing with some light to moderate snow, reducing those visibilities. Here's a look at TrueCast. 7:30 this evening, we'll start to shut the snow down around Petersburg, Lafayette, Monticello. Still dealing with it elsewhere, but by about 11:30 tonight, most areas will be done with snow. May get a little bit of lake effect, though, off of Lake Michigan there in areas around Marion, Indiana, Hartford City, and possibly into Muncie. Temperatures right now, you're into the 20s right now in Lafayette and Peru with wind chills in the teens. It's 30 degrees in Indy and Columbus with a wind chill of 20. Those temperatures next 12 hours going to be diving down into the middle teens, and it's still going to be breezy. So as you head out the door on Tuesday morning, even though we're going to have temperatures right around 10 to 15 degrees, it's going to feel like we're a little bit below the zero mark, and even into the afternoon, only about 10 degrees. At least we get some sunshine back with it. Your Tuesday forecast temperatures will make their way to around 23 degrees over the next few days of our forecast. Those temperatures not going to moderate a whole lot. We're back to 40 by Friday. Chris?
Prescription drug prices are a top election issue. Americans say it should be Congress's #1 priority this year. Chloe Nordquist found out the cost can force people to make tough decisions.
When I was diagnosed in 1972, insulin cost about $1 a bottle.
Because there I am with a bottle of insulin and a syringe.
The price tag now, about $350. Insulin helps diabetics manage their blood sugar.
So this is my current blood sugar.
My name is Gail DeVore. I have had type 1 diabetes for almost 48 years.
Her childhood doctor told her she wouldn't live past 40. She recently turned 59. Diabetics often have to buy multiple bottles of insulin at a time. For someone with a high deductible prescription plan, that comes right out of their pocket.
To afford that, which just happens to be more than my own mortgage, it's unreachable for some families.
The CDC estimates around 30 million people in America have diabetes, almost 10% of the population. The national price of insulin increased from around $340 in 2012 to $666 in 2016.
It's the most expensive part of our lives. My name's Michelle Fenner.
Her 17-year-old son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 9 years ago.
It impacts our ability to save for retirement. We've had to pull money out of savings.
Insulin isn't the only medication with a rising price tag. Michelle was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease just a year ago. Her medication alone can cost over $2,000 a month.
As I'm trying to keep my son alive and pay for all his costs, am I going to be able to afford my medication?
Overall, drug prices have continued to increase. My name is Gina Moore. I'm currently the president of Colorado Pharmacists Society. We're all touched personally by the cost of medications. My husband, as an example, was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease a couple months ago.
Individual spending on prescription medication increased from around $251 billion in 2012 to $341 billion in 2016.
It's not necessarily a new problem, but it's really one that has been magnified over the course of the last decade.
Income for pharmacies from retail prescription drugs went up from nearly $31 billion in 2012 to $77 billion in 2016.
Don't hesitate to ask your pharmacist if they know of less expensive alternatives.
But for diabetics, there are no alternative drugs.
It's the simple little tiny hormone that every body should make. And without it, we die.
How can you plan your life when you literally have no idea how much something is going to cost?
I'm Chloe Nordquist.
It is such a problem. Chloe, thank you. Let's start the Now News feed. 3 African-American women who once worked for NASA will receive a huge honor. The 3 women helped John Glenn prepare to orbit the Earth, and they'll receive congressional gold medals. They were portrayed in the 2016 film Hidden Figures. More reasons to get to bed early. Boston University researchers say sleep can wash away toxins in the brain that could lead to Alzheimer's. Scientists say, think of sleep as a bath for your brain. Well, you may not see likes on Instagram this week. The app is expanding a test into the United States that it's been doing in countries like Canada and Australia. Instagram has been making like counts on pictures private. The head of the app says he doesn't want Instagram to be a competition. Next in our line of clothes membership programs are really popular these days, and more options keep getting added, but the cost can really add up. What you need to watch for so you don't pay extra.